Sports betting season is in full force. You need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity like BetUS. You may already know this, but BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That is BetUS.com. They have loads of bonuses. Join now or call 800-69-BET-US. That is 800-MY-BET-US. And you will receive a 125% sign-up bonus by using the bonus code 5. That's the word 5, F-I-V-E. They also have re-up and referral bonuses as well. Follow my lead and open an account with BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS. This show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a revolutionary new daily fantasy game whereby you pick 2, 3, or 4 players to go over or under their fantasy point projections, and if you're correct, you win. Pick 2 or more players from the same sport or league, or go cross leagues for your parlay. Use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, 5, and receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. But first, sign up at prizepicks.com to start winning today. This show is brought to you by Lewis Peters State Farm, agency representing the #1 auto and home insurer in the United States for more than 60 years combined experience in the insurance industry. Local agents that understand South Florida's unique market. You have access to them 24/7, walk-in, call-in, click-in through lewispeters.com. You can find them online on social media at SF Agent Peters, or you can call at 305-275-5585. Remember, lewispeters.com.
Welcome to 3 Yards Per Carry, a podcast covering the Miami Dolphins and the NFL. Now, here's your hosts, Chris, Alf, and Simon.
Miami has the Dolphins.
And we're on, and welcome to 3 Yards Per Carry, another victorious 3 Yards Per Carry. It's another Victory Monday, 6 of them in a row. That's a pretty healthy win streak. Simon Clancy is here. Chris Kaufman is here. And as always, we are brought to you by Manscaped. It's almost Christmas. And you know what that means. Yeah. You got to shave your balls. Use 5RSN, 20% off your order. Why wouldn't you use the promo code 5RSN? We're being told that some of you are not using the promo code 5RSN, and that pains me. So use the promo code 5RSN. Get 20% off your entire order at Manscaped. How are you guys?
Like, why would you use the promo code?
I don't understand.
It's like if you went into a shop and somebody said, "Oh, you're buying a Christmas present for your wife. It's $200." I tell you what, take this token. It's only $140. How many people would go, "Oh no, don't worry about it, mate. I'd rather pay the $200."
Yeah, it seems that I've been told that people are clicking on our link to go into Manscaped to order stuff, and then are using somebody else's promo code.
Oh man!
And somebody else's promo code is the same as ours. You get 20% off, but use ours. We get credit if you use ours. We do not get credit if you click on our link and you use somebody else's. Okay, it's like that just doesn't make sense. Use our promo code.
That's like cheating on us with someone else's ball
pretty
shaving devices.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. All right. What a game yesterday. I hate to do this, but I'm going to start somewhere negative. Okay. That 4th and 1 call. I've been thinking about this for a day already. I can't think of
I'd prefer not to think about it.
I've been thinking about it for an entire day because it's inexcusable. Okay. That 4th and 1 call was maybe the worst moment this coaching staff has had since it got here in 2019. It's 4th
not true.
You
don't think it's the worst?
The back-to-back challenges against Jacksonville were comfortably the worst moment.
You sure about that? Because we're talking about
certain.
a 4th and a foot.
A fake punt. Or
Okay.
is that the issue you have? It is that it was a fake punt call, or what? Is the issue that the ball just completely donked off Clayton Fajetelim's face because
of it.
he had no
That's
idea.
not-
He had no idea.
But that's
All of
not.
it. It was.
That's not on coach. How is that on the coaches though? The coaches didn't snap the ball into his face.
No, they called a fake punt when you have evidently Walter Payton running in your backfield. You have Tua
Sure,
who
but
ran a guy over who could surely pick up a foot on a sneak. Brissett can pick up a foot on a sneak. You have so many options. You even have that cute little Smythe sneak play.
Yeah, why didn't they do
ran.
that? I want to see them do that again.
You're trying to pick up 1 foot that is 12 inches, okay? And you call a fake punt. Why?
it's still not worse than the Jaguars thing. That actually cost us a game.
Okay, but what about in totality? Like forgetting the coaching aspect of it, just the totality of that play. Was that the worst of this year? Because I think it might be. I mean, you got a long snapper that just goes. And by the way, this often ends up an on field call like that the long snapper can make. Based on how they're lining up, especially if it's like short yardage or something like that. Like there's the special teams usually install like an optionality, I think, to that sort of fake punt. And so somebody made the call and Clayton Fajetelem didn't get it. And long snapper really, I mean, he fired that thing in there. It's not like like it's not like he made it easy for him. He fired that. I'm surprised it didn't get stuck in Clayton Fajetelem's face mask. Like it just donks off him. It was just like the worst play I've seen this year. I think maybe of any team. I don't know. It was really, really embarrassing.
You know that scene in Mrs. Doubtfire where Robin Williams throws the can and it hits Pierce Brosnan in the back of the head when they're all at the country club, and he throws the orange, and Pierce Brosnan's at the bar and he's walking away with the drinks, and Mrs. Doubtfire picks up the lime and throws it like Dan Marino off the back of Pierce Brosnan's head. That's how fast the ball came back into Fajetelem's face. The issue I have with it is that somebody didn't back out of that call because they were clearly looking for it. The Jets, they're all up on the line of scrimmage, so I'm not even sure it would have worked even if he hadn't fired the ball into his face like a heat-seeking missile. Yeah, I mean, I still don't think I don't think it was a great moment, but I don't think it was the worst thing the coaching staff have done.
I thought it was pretty bad. And getting back to let's talk a little bit about the game, and let's start with the quarterback. I don't think this was Tua's finest effort, but I think it says something that I didn't think he played well, and he still had some pretty big throws, and he threw the game winner. Like you can't gloss over that fact.
It only says something if this is as bad as it gets.
Oh yeah, of course.
If it gets worse, then we would look at this game a little.
Well, the sample is now what, 21 games that he started. Is that it? Is that right? No, it's not. It's 19 games. Okay, so of the 19 games, is this his worst? In my opinion, he was kind of incompetent against the Broncos last year. Yeah. And I don't even count that Buffalo game. That Buffalo game was just a complete straight up implosion by the entire team.
Which one? Oh, wait, the
second
late season one. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the late season one last year. So was this his worst game? Your thoughts on his game? And I'll start, I guess, with Simon here. Your thoughts on Tua's performance yesterday?
I thought it was his worst game because I think you take into consideration the Broncos game in terms of the early portion of his career. I thought he was awful yesterday for long stretches. I just didn't understand the throws he was making. What concerns me, and some of the narrative has been around his inability to go to second and third reads, which actually I think has been slightly overblown at times. But there were times yesterday where it was just like he panicked. He got panicked feet if his first read wasn't there. There were times where there was a third down where he had a 3-by-1 format, so three to the top of to the right of him, top formation. Devontae Parker single coverage with Brandon Eccles down to the bottom of the formation, and he threw to Parker. It would have been short the first down. It was like a 3rd and 4, but that was his first read. That was his only read. He had time in the pocket. It was clear that A, he wasn't going to get the first down, and B, that Brandon Eccles was absolutely glove-like in coverage, that Parker had no separation, but he just threw it anyway. And I just thought, like, just back out of that. You've got the time. Maybe it's because he's nervous that he always gets hit and he has short release time. But actually, and to give them credit, the offensive line has slowly made some incremental improvements over the last few weeks that I'm sure we'll get to. But he had switch releases on the other side. Mike Gesicki was running open. And I just thought, why are you so attracted to your first read all the time? The first couple of throws, so they've been using this really clever, quick RPO play where he RPOs to the back and then he has two receivers to one side and he has essentially a choice to throw. And he looks with his eyes to the outside receiver and then always throws it to the inside receiver. And so corners jump the outside route and it leaves the inside receiver open. It's a really quick, easy 8, 10, 12 pickup yard play, except that they tried to run it early and Robert Saleh has clearly seen it on film. And the guy who was covering the inside receiver, was just sat on the route and Tua didn't know where to throw it. He didn't have a clue. And it was just like, oh my God, my first read, which I'm not going to throw to anyway, is covered because that's the one I'm staring down. But actually what I do is I throw it inside, but my inside throw is now covered. I don't know what to do here. That's a concern for me after 19, 20 games that, he's not backing out of throws that he shouldn't throw and going to secondary and third reads.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I called him a gunslinger a few games back, and some people were like, "Oh no, he's kind of conservative." And I'm like, every once in a while, he has those gunslinger tendencies where he's like, "I'm going here, and this is where I'm going," and it sure as hell didn't work out for him yesterday.
The accuracy yesterday, I thought, was inconsistent. There were times he has a tendency in that intermediate area to either throw behind or too high. And that's been a consistent since he's been with us. And I think that needs to be improved on. He made a couple of really nice throws. There's an absolute thread the needle throw that I thought had been picked off that he completed. In fact, his two best throws of the day were to Isaiah Ford. There was one, the deep ball over the shoulder on third down, which was dropped in beautifully. And then there was that thread the needle throw. But you go back and you look at, so there was a throw last night in the Baltimore game that Aaron Rodgers made where he essentially threaded the needle to Valdez-Scantling over. We've probably all seen it, and I'll put it up on social media, and I'll stick it in the OnlyFins group. But you just think that's the sort of throw I want to see. I want to see Tua make. It's a throw where the receiver is covered when it's released, and there are multiple defenders, albeit ones with their backs to the ball when the ball's thrown, and it's just an elite level throw that you can, like Dan Orlovsky talked today about a throw that Matthew Stafford made to Odell Beckham in the game against Arizona last Thursday night, was it? And it was exactly the same throw. And there's only a handful of quarterbacks in the league that can make it. I want to see that level of throw from Tua. I just thought I don't know what you think, Chris, but just the inconsistency earlier on. Chris and I were talking about it in the OnlyFins chat yesterday. There were just some throws where I don't know where, like the early pick, like he had Parker wide open, he overthrew it.
Yeah,
it was just like, where are you throwing it? Where are you throwing it? And he gets really, he just gets a bit. He calmed down certainly, and I like the fact that after the pick six, which was a really bad throw. He bounced back and led the. He only threw the ball twice on that drive, but he still bounced back, had the fortitude to bounce back through what turned out to be the game winner, and that's great. You want to see that bounce back, but don't put yourself in a situation where you have to bounce back. Don't continue to make mistake after mistake. And you watch that. I've watched the Saints a few times this season. That defense is really good. It's really good up front. It's really good at the second level. They've got really good corners. And they will. They will pose a threat with pressure, and they will pose a threat in coverage because they got good cover guys. Marcus Williams, Lattimore, Gardner Johnson's a good player. So it'll be very interesting to see how he bounces back because he's going to need to be as bad as he was, or as mediocre as he was yesterday. He's going to need to be the absolute best Tua that we can possibly see next Monday to win that game. And you kind of thought this was another moment where you just take another step forward. You've put 6 or 7 really nice games together. Let's keep that part. And now all of a sudden you almost come out of the game. I almost came out of the game yesterday with more questions than I went in with, which was not really a situation I wanted to be in, given that it's the 32nd ranked defense in the league. And, you kind of expected him just to sling it around and be accurate and be precise. And, Robert Saleh's a good coordinator, and he did some things, took some things away that Tua like, some staple throws. And it felt to me like he didn't have answers to what, Salah had done. And you're coming up against Dennis Allen and really good DC next week. They're going to do exactly the same. So how does he answer that this week?
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing before we get to Chris here, who I'm sure has a lot to say. There was one play in particular in the third quarter where they're driving, they're around the 32-yard line. And the Jets, I think they just flat out screwed up in alignment, and they brought the wrong safety, I thought, off the hash down to the box. And then Tua starts lining people up while Parker is screaming at him, "I'm all alone here, one-on-one, with no safety behind." And you see he's raising his hands, and Tua sees him, and Tua's still more concerned with lining everybody else up, and we ended up getting a delay of game penalty. When Tua has to recognize, like, you waited all game to get this situation. You have Parker one-on-one with a guy with nobody behind him, and you're near the red zone, because I believe they were at the 31-yard line. Okay, instead you were preoccupied with lining everybody else up, and you didn't take advantage of this gift that the Jets gave you, and you ended up getting a 5-yard penalty. I thought that was another poor moment by Tua. What say you, Chris?
Yeah, I think his most consistent issues of the year have been exactly this. He has issues. He has issues, reconciling the defense as it is versus how he expects it to be. And I think that that's not a unique problem. That's basically every quarterback out there faces that problem all the time. But young guys in particular are more susceptible to bad plays because of it. And he's playing like that. And I think that I came away from this game. Is it his worst game that he's played as a Dolphin? I'm not sure that it's his worst, but I mean, because Simon mentioned, like the Broncos game, for example. Yeah, he was a lot younger, right? He was a lot less experienced. So maybe you kind of excuse that a little. But it was a bit like the Broncos game. And so if we're talking, relative to his experience level, maybe you would say that this was the worst game. At the same time, if this is the worst that he's done, because let's be honest, he made some really good throws in that game. He threw 2 touchdowns, and he scored 2 touchdowns, 2 lead changers in the fourth quarter that he put in the end zone, right? And they won the game with 31 points on the board offensively. I mean, if that's the worst it gets for him, then he's a franchise quarterback, and this debate is over. Okay. And that's one point that I would take away from that. But we don't know that this is the worst that it gets. Like, there could be worse than this floating around out there from him. We still have to see. But I think that consider that this is the second time that Robert Saleh saw Tua Tagovailoa. They played, and not just the coaching staff. I think importantly, it's also the second time that the players on the Jets defense played against Tua Tagovailoa. And I think that ended up coming into play. And it's interesting because it's going to happen again when the Patriots come to Miami for the last game of the year, right? So they've seen Tua before as well. So this is relevant. But this is the second time that they saw them, that they saw Tua, and it was clear that they adjusted based on the first time that they faced him and took away some of his usual answers. I mean, everybody says, "Oh, you just take away his first read, just take away his first read." Well, yeah, but what you got to be able to know what that first read is going to be. It's not that easy. They had a real bead on what he would want to do, and what the Dolphins wanted to do. And it was clear in the initial stages of that game that they were all kinds of discombobulated about it because the Jets were taking away some things. The second thing is that Jalen Waddle was not playing in the game, and I think that clearly affected him. And again, this is relevant for the future. We want Jalen Waddle to be out there then, if that's going to affect the quarterback's play. And I think it was clear that maybe some of his answers were a little bit different, or maybe he was a little bit more stuck than usual because he was less comfortable, didn't have Jalen Waddle out there. And then the third thing that was happening out there, and I thought that this was clear in the early stages as well, is there was clear bye week rust going on with these guys. And this is something that I saw Brian Flores talking about during the bye week. He's really worried that getting out of routine, there were obviously they were in a 5-game win streak. They were in a good rhythm and a good routine. He was afraid that getting out of routine would disrupt them. And I think that when you're afraid of something like that, it kind of has a way of coming about. And so the whole team, it wasn't just Tua, but especially Tua, when you see him like on that interception, like where was that throw going? Like accuracy is not his problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a guy completing 80% of his passes. I mean, he's got keyhole accuracy most of the time.
He leads the NFL.
I mean, yeah, and I understand that, like, yeah, there's definitely throws out there. This should have been better. This could have, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, like 100% is not our standard. Accuracy is not really this guy's problem usually. But so when you start to see like throws that are like, where was that going? Why was that so far behind? Why, and it was consistent in this game. Like there's behind throws and stuff like that. That has to be rust to me. That has to be rust, especially at the beginning of the game. So I think those three things, Sully and the Jets defensive players having seen him already, Jalen Waddle being out of the game. He's the guy that's on pace for over 100 catches. I mean, he's clearly his favorite target. And then you have the fact that they're coming off the bye week and there's a clear bit of rest. And I think that's really it. That's probably it. That's probably what we were seeing from Tua out there. But all in all, scored 31 points in the game. I mean, some credit for that.
Absolutely. And now we're going to get to the good stuff. People were asking me yesterday, where's this Duke Johnson been in his whole NFL career? Well, if you look at his NFL career, the most carries he ever had was 16 coming into yesterday's game. And he's only had 10 or more carries 7 times before Sunday. This is the Duke Johnson that ran at the University of Miami. Since he's been in the NFL level, he's been pigeonholed as this pass catcher, third down back, and he's been effective in a couple of spots. I was utterly surprised that we ended up getting University of Miami Duke Johnson, but it's a pleasant surprise. He's been signed to the active roster. Your thoughts on his performance, Simon, and going forward? Does he challenge for RB2 next year?
I thought he played great. I tweeted at one point that he looked more like Chris Johnson than Duke Johnson. I suppose we have to work out whether or not it's an anomalous performance, and only time will tell that he backs that up. But he looked fantastic the way he was cutting and keeping plays alive, and it's just his hip movement and his shoulders and his contact balance and those sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting that teams have been. He's been bouncing around teams for a number of years and hasn't really stuck in, the last couple of seasons. And whether or not it's just coming home and playing for the team that he loves in the stadium that he played his college football at remains to be seen. But you can't ask for more than what he put on film yesterday. And now he needs to take it to New Orleans and prove that it just wasn't one of those kind of one-offs that we sometimes see in the league. And hopefully it wasn't. And, would be great moving forwards if he was a really nice complementary back to somebody that we brought in the draft. And, if he can put the next 4 games, can continue that performance in the next 4 games, then we might not even need to draft a back as highly as we maybe think we do. So it was a great performance. I thought he played really well. He was the difference in the game for me, certainly. And now follow it up next week.
Chris?
It was hard to believe what I was seeing out there because this wasn't just like a stat gathering performance. This wasn't just This was real. This was real high level. You almost want to say elite level performance from a running back, which we just haven't seen in Miami in quite some time. And it was phenomenal. I mean, he broke PFF had like 8 missed tackles that he forced in the game. I mean, on 26 carries. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was just an overall, and it just kept getting better. That was the thing that really got me as the game was going on. Is there's the old cliche, and sometimes I feel it's not really true. This running back only just gets stronger as the game goes on, and well, he was getting stronger as the game runs on, and so Miami's got a great opportunity to just see how deep this rabbit hole goes, and we're all just hoping that they're not going to screw it up by like, oh no, now he's benched next week and Myles Gaskin is the guy, and I know that I get called out for being the Myles Gaskin hater, but I thought that Duke Johnson showed us what we've been missing, why Myles Gaskin is so painfully average that he, 4 out of 5 times or whatever, like Myles Gaskin is going to get just the absolute bare minimum of what was given to him by the blocking and by the defense. And
yeah, like Leroy Horde's famous his saying where he says that when he came out of Michigan, he told Belichick one time, because Belichick asked him, why do you always miss this cut when we call this play? And he told Belichick, if you need a yard, I'll get you 3. If you need 2 yards, I'll get you 3. If you need 5 yards, I'll get you 3.
Well, yeah, I mean, Myles Gaskin, I mean, he will run into the backs of his blockers. There can be space. We've seen some run blocking from this, as beleaguered as this offensive line unit is. We've seen some run blocking from them this year that was passable at times. Like that's actually some of the strengths of some of the guys that you're seeing out there, Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson. I mean, he's a very mobile, agile guard, and so
now with a new and improved mean streak, evidently.
Yeah, well, right, and so there's been some run blocking at times, and I just feel like it ends up wasted with Savon Ahmed and Myles Gaskin and Patrick Laird and even Malcolm Brown and the crap that we're putting out there. And I thought that Duke Johnson showed, yeah, it was wasted, because here this guy comes in and he shows us exactly what we've been missing. And it's just, painful, the missed opportunities that we've had by having such bad backs in the backfield. And I think that now we're seeing a guy play much better than that. And I'm really interested in seeing how the rest of the season goes for him, because that's a potentially huge development. This is an offense that has been trying to run, even though they're missing the foundational layer of what it's built on. The foundational layer of an RPO offense is the run. It is an RPO. You have to be able to run the ball and be effective that way, and get the defense thinking about it. And we've not ever been able to do that. And I think that it's actually very ironic that Tua had sort of his worst game while this was happening with Duke Johnson, but I don't think that's going to be the case going forward if Duke Johnson continues to provide what he's provided. And so I get really excited about what I saw out there out of Duke, and I'm not going to assume that he's just an RB2. I mean, yeah, he's been in the league for a little bit now. This is his 7th year, but I'm making no assumptions. He's here for the rest of the year at the very least. So I want to see
active roster.
He is today. He just been signed onto the active roster. So he's here for the rest of the year at the very least. We've got 3 more games. Every game right now is a playoff game for the Dolphins. And if they win all 3 of the next 3 games, then they might get a bonus game. They might get an actual playoff game. We got some games to go to see how far this goes with him, and I'm really excited about it. I think that Yeah, this is what we've been missing. This is what we've been waiting for, and it's pretty nice to see.
I think it's pretty instructive that you can't forget Philip Lindsay got off a plane on Thursday, had a walkthrough with the team, suited up on Sunday, and ran for 42 yards on 12 carries, which is not great, but he had his moments against the Carolina Panthers.
Well, he also looked like the best back in that game, I thought.
Exactly. I don't want to bury Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed, but
and Malcolm
they're
Brown.
not it. It's kind of obvious that at this point, right, that they're not it, right? I don't know. Let's move on to the defense as we wrap up this recap of Week 15. Simon, what did you make, first of all? Because that was a bunch of gimmicks that the Jets were rolling out there in the first half. I thought that was brilliant, by the way. The pass to Crowder, and Crowder throws it almost 15 yards back to Berrios. And you can see our defense like looking at them like, what in the hell is going on here?
Yeah,
But
I thought it reminded. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, in the second half, 35 yards. That's it. No points. Tua doesn't throw that pick six. They win going away after sleepwalking for most of the first half. Your thoughts on the defense and I guess the Jets going forward overall? Is it as hopeless as it looks at times, or do you think that this is a worthy opponent very, very, very soon?
I mean, to answer the first question, it reminded me of the first year of Brian Flores and the Dolphins would just try and do anything to pick up first downs, pick up wins, the kind of the funky plays that we talked about earlier in the season that we seem to kind of have gone away from. I thought it was great play calling, great coaching. I think there's clearly something there with Zach Wilson, but he needs a lot of work. He needs refinement. He needs players around him. It doesn't help that Elijah Moore's injured. It doesn't help that Denzel Mims has kind of gone off the boil. And that means that, the knock-on effect is that, guys like Jamison Crowder have to step up and essentially be a number one receiver, which he's not. He's a really good number three, a really good slot. They need a big tight end. They need better offensive line play. George Fant's a good left tackle. Obviously, they're waiting for Mekhi Becton to come back. I'm not sure what his future is. Robert Saleh's a good coach, good defensive coach. Again, you look at them up front, they're not bad. You look at them as secondary, they're fairly abject. But he's getting decent performances out of a not particularly decent group. Marcus May, their best safety, or probably their best defensive back, is not playing. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if they become a bit of a force, or certainly significantly better over the next few years. But like all teams that are in the basement, like we've been trying to do for the last 20 years, you've got to find the right players. And if you can't find the right players, then they're going to be a team that's looking for a new GM, looking for a new coach, and probably looking for a new quarterback. So there's a couple of big drafts coming up for them. So yeah, I mean, genuinely I don't really care about the Jets, but and I wasn't surprised that we played down to their level yesterday. There's some decent players on that roster, but they need now to find a Javon Holland, a Jalen Phillips, and a Jalen Waddle to help really kick that team along.
Yeah, speaking of Phillips, like yesterday he induced 2 holding penalties. There should be a stat about that. Okay,
There should be.
Okay, if you come around the edge and they just can't block you and they have to just grab you and throw you to the ground, like that should be a stat that you could put on your line and say, look, I did that. I caused 2 holding penalties. Because like I've said before, and nobody has ever compiled this, the day it gets compiled, I will love it, all right? And I will pimp it to your heart's content, all right? I want a stat that tells me the success rate of drives that have a holding penalty in them, because I suspect that the success rate is minuscule. I'd love to see that. Compile it from, like, let's say from 1991 on, since they changed the rule to 10 yards for a holding penalty. I'd love to see that. But same question, Chris, as we close it out here.
Well, I think that the defense, it shows that the last time we played the Jets, unlike the Jets, I said that they played Tua Tagovailoa before. And the players, I think, as much as the coaches, it's really important that the players also were on the field and get a feel for these for the guys that they've faced before. Our players had no feel for Zach Wilson, and it showed. Our players played Joe Flacco last time, and he does very different things from Zach Wilson. And actually, if you look at that game, the previous Jets game, Joe Flacco did some things against them kind of early in the game that were like, that we had the zero blitzes and at least one time he had the perfect answer for it and it went for a really long touchdown. And you actually see that. My perception anyway is that you actually see that with this defense, even on this really strong run that they're having, like kind of early in the game. They'll have like a completely blown run fit and a really long run play that goes against them, or things like that, and then they kind of settle in. And that's exactly what happened in this Jets game. They hadn't played Zach Wilson before. The Jets were having some success early, and then the defense settled in and clamped down and gave nothing up for the rest of the game. So I think the defense, no, the clock has not struck 12 on Cinderella yet. With respect to this defense, the way that I thought that was something that really happened last year. They were on an incredible run. The defense, where you legitimately could have called them the best defense in the NFL. And then it seemed like, toward the end, clock struck 12 on them, and suddenly they just were not the same defense anymore, going down the stretch. And I think that, if you look at the Raiders and the success they were having, certainly that Buffalo game at the end. But anyway, I think it's not over yet for this defense based on how they performed yesterday. And so I'm encouraged about that going forward. The Jets, as Simon said, I couldn't really care less about them. My sense is that they don't have answers yet in place. I think that as an offense, and as in terms of their identity and what they're going to be, primarily at the quarterback position, I think Zach Wilson can do some things. He is a talented player, but he's certainly getting used to the speed of the NFL and how things are coming at him, which was always going to be a thing because he had it so good at BYU. I always thought that. And so I think that they don't have their answers yet. I do like a couple of players. Obviously, Michael Carter is a guy that I keep talking about, and except for his pass protection, which can be really shaky at times, and we exploited yesterday. But as a runner, he's very talented. Again, it's Duke Johnson like, and like you're seeing a guy that's making plays that aren't necessarily given to him and doing it consistently. That's what we've been missing, and I wish that we've had this entire time. So they have that there with Michael Carter, but they clearly need a lot more. And maybe we'll see how Zach Wilson's development goes. I'm not calling victory on him as a draft pick yet, certainly. But the defensive performance, it's again the early bit. They probably had some bye week rust as well. The Jets had some early success on them, and I just attribute that to trying to get a feel for a new quarterback with new abilities. I mean, he scrambled out of their grips a couple of times because he can do that, and Joe Flacco certainly can't. And so I think that it went very predictably, I would say, overall.
Yep, I tend to agree. Yeah, that Tua pick six kind of changed the entire perception of what we got for that game.
I mean, it was a 17-point game from them offensively.
Yeah, it was essentially, the game was not competitive in the second half when you can only muster 35 yards and 4 first downs in an entire half. So, and score 0 points offensively. All right, that's it. There is no more. The next time we talk to you, we'll be probably, let's call it Wednesday, maybe Thursday, who knows. But we will be talking Dolphins, Saints on Monday Night Football. That's a big one. See you then.
Thanks for listening to 3 Yards Per Carry. You can subscribe via iTunes, on Podbean, or your usual podcast provider.